So this is Zehr, Max Colon. I'm Michael McKelvey. Can I have that?
Sure.
You can hand this back and forth. And we're here to talk a little bit about public engagement, volunteerism, CUVolunteer, the Day of Service, kind of all of these topics related to the university and volunteering and out in the community. So I'm going to hand this over to Sarah first from the Office of Public Engagement to talk a little bit about the Office of Public Engagement and their activities and how we're out there in the community. So here you go.
All right, thank you. As Michael said, my name is Sarah Zehr, and I work currently in the Office of Public Engagement, but ironically, before that, I was working in various other places, business and engineering, but doing public engagement on the side, kind of, you know, some different things. And so I probably am the instigator of why everyone's involved in all these projects in the room. But basically, I started, you know, I've always been a big believer in volunteering. When I was a little girl, my grandmother used to volunteer at the local hospital. I grew up here in Champaign, so it was, at the time it was Mercy. It's not Mercy, it hasn't been for a long time. It's now Provena or something else. But she volunteered every week, and when I had a day off of school, I would go with her, and I thought this was a huge privilege, which of course, you know, I was going and working at a hospital, but I thought that was the coolest thing ever. So I really enjoyed that because I could go and just do a little different projects that helped the hospital and spend time with my grandma. And so I kind of grew up with volunteering being important to me. And then when I started working at the university, as I said, I worked in business for a couple of years and then I was in engineering, but that didn't mean that I wasn't looking for other opportunities to do things. And I worked in career services, and I knew that students sometimes benefit when they volunteer because they can gain professional skills from that. It's a resume builder, things like that. So I was very much interested in looking for opportunities for students to do that. And when I moved back to Champaign, I lived in Chicago for several years. When I moved back, I had a couple of weeks off before I started my job at the university. And so I was like, well, I'll do some volunteering. So I contacted a few agencies, but I never heard back from anybody. And 2 weeks went by and I still hadn't done any volunteering because I just couldn't get anything figured out in the 2 weeks. When I had lived in Chicago, I had been involved in an organization called Chicago Cares, where you can just go online and look up what projects are available and sign up for a project at a time that works for you, which was really cool because I was a consultant and I traveled a lot. So I just basically could sign up for things when I was in town. And I was like, well, I know Champaign is not as big as Chicago, but we apparently still need something like that because it's too hard to try to figure all this out. So I talked with some people, other people that I knew in the community who were interested in volunteering, and asked them if they had similar experiences, and they felt that it was also a need. So we started thinking about how we could go about doing that. And there was something that existed at the university called CUVolunteer at the time that did have some, it was sort of what I was looking for, but not really, because it was very limited and it wasn't very well marketed and it was very old and clunky and didn't really do a whole lot. But the general idea was kind of there. And so we decided maybe we just needed to overhaul that. So I talked to a bunch of people in the university. And for those of you who work here, you probably know that trying to get something resurrected in the university can be a challenge. So basically, it took 2 years, but we were able to get CUVolunteer relaunched. I do remember after I'd been working on this for like a year, I kind of got to this point where I couldn't go any farther until I had somebody who could help me with the technical side of things. So I had been in touch with Pradeep Khanna, who's my boss now, but at the time he was not. He's the Associate Chancellor for Public Engagement and Corporate Relations. And I talked with him about it, and he seemed relatively on board. And he's like, well, I have this group that you should meet because they might be able to help you. And that was Misty, and that was the first I'd heard of Misty. So I remember we had this meeting, and it was Beth and Michael and George and Pradeep and me. And we sit down, and they obviously knew they were going to be asked to do something, so they're kind of nervous because they're busy people. And so I started talking about what it was that we were doing, that I was trying to do. And I remember George, I think it was George, I remember saying, well, we really have a lot of projects going on right now, and I'm not sure if we could handle this. And he kind of looks over at Michael, and he's like, well, we're busy, but I don't know. We might be able to famous last words.
Yeah, sounds interesting.
Yeah. You did say that, I think. You were like, this is really kind of interesting, though. And so we ended up, it was, I don't know, an hour-long meeting. But by the end of the meeting, they had committed to doing it, whether they liked it or not. And so then CUVolunteer was basically born. And it took another, I would say, 3 to 6 months. I can't remember exactly what time that was, because that was like the beginning of the actual, okay, how can we actually make this work? But we launched that in July of 2012?
11, I think.
11, maybe?
Pretty sure.
That might be right. July of 2011. And we made the front page of the paper. I remember that. That was exciting. And so it actually went over very well. But CUVolunteer.org is a site where you can visit if you're a volunteer or a nonprofit organization. And if you're a volunteer, you can find something to volunteer for. If you're a nonprofit and you need volunteers, then you can post an opportunity and hopefully find people to do that for you. So that was kind of the beginning of all of this. And then I joined public engagement. No, that happened before I joined public. So we had CUVolunteer working. And then a couple years, it was probably a couple years later, we'd been talking, we had regular monthly meetings. And at some of those meetings, it would come up that maybe we should do some sort of like day of service or something. That we should do some sort of a day where everybody just serves together. And everybody thought it was a great idea, but nobody kind of really moved on it. And so eventually I sat down in Pradeep's office, and I still wasn't working for him at the time, but I sat down in his office and I was like, everybody keeps talking about this day of service thing, but nobody's really doing anything. And he said, okay, what are you suggesting? And I was like, well, if you would support me, I just want to do this. And he was like, well, okay. So then that kind of started the day of service. So the very first year, which was 2 years ago in 2013, we were able to pull together a lot, we had to figure everything out. So the next thing that happened was I was working with the Office of Volunteer Programs, and I happened to come across Vanita, who was working there at the time, introduced me to Illini Fighting Hunger, where Max is, I don't know what your position is.
President,
okay.
Yep.
So Max is president. And so actually who I met was Gregory Damhorst. I'm not sure if you were involved at that time.
Yes.
You were already? Okay. Well, anyway, but I met Greg because he was one of the co-founders. And they'd started this organization, I don't know, probably less than a year before that, I think. I don't think it had been quite a year yet.
That was our first year.
That was the first year, okay.
That's
and so they were doing all these food packaging projects, and they were at the point where they were pretty efficient at it, they were pretty good at it, and we needed a big project if we were going to have a whole bunch of people serve together. And so I talked to Greg, and he was super excited about it, and so we decided to partner and do food packaging for the Day of Service. So that was 2 years ago, and I think that was one of your biggest events. That was
at that time, yeah. That was the largest. Yeah.
So, do you want to talk a little bit about how Illini Fighting Hunger started?
Sure. My story actually, it's funny. It'll parallel yours a little bit towards the end, but Illini Fighting Hunger started from an event a couple of years ago. I think it might have been 2010 or 2011, but there was an event called Million Meals for Haiti that happened after the terrible natural disasters that struck Haiti, and so the Champaign-Urbana community came together and they wanted to give back in some way, and so a number of different organizations contacted New Manna, and they said that we'd like to do a million meal packaging event, and so it was a great success. They actually had to start slowing people down from packaging because they anticipated it would take about 45 hours, but they'd gotten through like 600,000 meals in 17 hours, so they were way ahead of schedule. So at the end, they had some funding left over that our founder, Greg Damhorst, he approached the sponsors and asked what they might be thinking about doing with that funding. And so he convinced them to consider starting an RSO here at the university that would kind of continue that mission of providing a service where people could come together, volunteer, package meals at a very low cost. At the time, it was necessary to fly out any representative from a hunger fighting organization to help facilitate, and there were costs involved, flights and hotels and things like that. And so he had the idea of why couldn't we as students kind of start this up? We understand the packaging process, and we have the volunteers, so all we need is the equipment. And so that was kind of the start. Our first semester was fall of 2012, right the semester before the first day of service in 2013. And that's when I came in as a freshman student, and actually Vanita kind of got me involved too. Through the Office of Volunteer Programs, she had organized an event called Service First that has been a long-standing tradition through new student programs. And so I came in, I was originally going to volunteer with animals. In high school I'd worked at an animal shelter, so I wanted to kind of continue that, but they had to cancel that last minute. So they said, instead, you can go back to your residence hall and spend a nice day meeting people, or you can help out with this food packaging thing that's happening here at the Union. So I was like, okay, well, I'll try it. I hadn't done it before. But I was very happy that I did. I met a lot of great people. There were about 120 of us that packaged 12,000 meals in a little under 2 hours, and I was just absolutely stunned. I'd been on campus for less than 72 hours. It's the weekend before school starts, so I was amazed at the impact that college students can have, and so that was really inspirational for me. So I stuck around towards the end and found out who was running it and kind of talked to them a bit. And so that was our start. And so while we were kind of getting our footing going, Greg was having conversations with Sarah and sharing that with me little by little. He was like, yeah, there's this event being planned. It's going to be really big, 146,000 meals at the time. So we just kept moving. And then when the first day of service rolled around, we were very excited. Very enthusiastic, which was good. We did run into some complications, but we've learned a lot since that first year, and ready to do it bigger and better this year.
Yeah, we didn't quite make our goal the first year.
No.
We did eventually.
We did. That's
right
good.
Before the next day of service. It took us a year, but we got them all done. And then the next time we made it in the afternoon.
Yep.
We made it that afternoon, so that was very cool. One thing that I thought was really neat about the day of service is how many groups that it brought together. And the first year, I put together a big planning committee, that involved Illini Fighting Hunger and several others. And I asked a lot of people to be involved, which was great. And no one said no, let's put it that way. But then the following year, last year, one of the things that was so cool is that we had people left and right coming up and asking us what they could do and how they could get involved. Yeah. Which that was one of the things that was really gratifying to me, is that I didn't have to ask anybody for help last year because everybody was trying, people were falling all over themselves trying to help, which was great. And the really important thing, of course, the idea behind this is, one, to raise awareness of hunger issues in our local community, because there are a lot of those. And two, to encourage people to volunteer and to make volunteering a habit and to do this on a regular basis. So while I think this one day is a great thing, I'm hoping that it means that people are volunteering more during the week and at other times as well. So that's one of the, and that is, I was supposed to talk about public engagement, which I didn't do yet. So now that I'm in the Office of Public Engagement, that is one of the key things that we try to do in our office, is encourage members of the campus community, whether it's researchers, faculty, students, whoever, to then interact with people outside of the campus community. And I think it's easy if you're a student to kind of come to campus and there's so much going on here, you don't really have to leave here to be, if you aren't asked to or if you don't have an opportunity to. You can potentially spend even 4 years here and really not spend hardly any time off of campus. And so I think it is important for that, that sort of thing. So we have a number of different programs that encourage some public engagement. One of them is the portal that Misty runs. Misty is obviously a very important component of public engagement. But they run the portal, and that just has different types of programs that are open to the public where people can look them up and search through them and things like that. We have a grant program for members of the campus community who are partnering with people outside the campus community, doing something that is community related, and it can be related to diversity, it can be related to society benefit, it can be a number of different things. And so we provide funding for some of those things. And then we have a number of programs where people can highlight some of the things that they've done, like the colloquium and the symposium and some other events that we have where people actually talk about the things that they're doing, kind of like the Misty Lunches. So that's something else that we've been able to do. And I think that through some of those programs, we have been able to really do a lot with increasing the amount of public engagement that happens on this campus, or at least increasing recognition of it. I think people that are going to do that are going to do it anyway because they're willing to give their time and interested in doing that. But it's great that we can let people know more about it.
Can I throw in something here? It seems to me that a big change and opportunity that has taken place around the Public Engagement Symposium and the colloquia is that now people who are doing engagement activities are much more aware of all the other people who are doing these things. And I think that's a an unrecognized need. Often we think, the public doesn't know how much we do. Many times we don't know how much is going on. And that the colloquia and the symposium have really done a lot to help those of us who know, or who are interested in the engagement mission especially, know what other people are doing. And so it's gotten to the point, I think, with the symposium that it's really like a mini conference of people who know each other and sharing information. So it's a sort of nice feel to it.
I think that's true, and I think that's an important step. And I think maybe the next step that we might want to start thinking about is, okay, once we get people to know a little bit more about what each other are doing, are there opportunities to collaborate or think together or do things that might, create synergy if you're working together? Right. And I mean, I think that we have so many wonderful programs across this campus, and that's great. But I think that there could be opportunities, especially when you're working with similar populations and things, to work together and collaborate more. And I think that's true within campus and outside of campus, and then, anywhere really. But I think that is great. And we have actually had a really significant increase in the number of people attending some of those events, like the symposium and the colloquia.
Symposium this year seemed really crowded.
It did.
And there were a lot of
so,
people
too.
I didn't know to myself,
Yeah.
like I said, a lot of times it's like homecoming, you just see everybody you know. But this time there were a lot of new projects going on and people who wanted to get the word out. So
I think that's great.
good.
And I think that's really important. One way that the word's apparently gotten out is one thing that we were kind of excited about this year is at the Day of Service, I was out of the country last week for work, and I was checking my email, and Governor Rauner's office had asked if he could come to the Day of Service, and we're like, well, yeah. So he's scheduled to come. He's supposed to come in the afternoon. Yeah, sorry, we don't allow any government officials, but that was kind of exciting because I think that will certainly help with media attention. Yeah. So we will likely have quite a bit of media there.
So he's going to be there?
He's scheduled to be there.
Huh.
And it sounds pretty sure. I mean, they've confirmed, they've talked with us, they've got a whole little plan as to what he's going to do for 45 minutes and all that, so we'll see. So that's kind of exciting.
Absolutely, and I think it kind of shows just how much word of mouth is helping to spread for service and engagement across the campus. I think the first year with the Day of Service, we had somewhere around 900. Last year, it bumped up dramatically, maybe around 1,400. This year, right now, we have 1,900 people registered, and we still have a week before the event. So
I know, and it went up 200 in the last week, because I'm pretty sure it was 1,700 the week before. Yeah. So we'll see what number we have next week.
But it's really great to see so many people coming together, word of mouth spreading, people really wanting to be active and engaged in helping their community.
And another thing that I think Michael's been doing a really good job of is trying to connect some of these things. So for instance, I know that we were able to kind of try to promote the portal through some of these things that we've been doing, and then the portal can kind of promote the other things. But thinking about how those things can work together to get more attention and more awareness as well.
And if you are wanting to learn more about the Day of Service, we do, of course, have a website, CUVolunteer.org/Day of Service. We'll give you some more information about it. I don't know if you're a minute ago, but did you guys mess with Opens? Okay, well.
You were not sabotaged, I don't think. I think it's just not cooperating.
Yeah, no, we can.
But Michael
really
is actually,
Michael's
being modest over here. It's not just a website. I mean, he's done a great job on it, and you've been really helpful with all that.
And yeah, the registrations are still open, so if you're not doing anything next Saturday, a week from tomorrow, you can still sign up for.
We would recommend not at 9 or 10.
Yeah, those are pretty busy shifts, but throughout the morning and early afternoon, we have a number of shifts available.
Should we have a shift for Friday if people are still signing up?
We could, no, we could talk about that.
We could talk about that.
We could see.
But anyway.
So yeah, but we're excited to be having it happen again. It is in the west gate of Memorial Stadium.
West Wing.
West Wing, which is a very large concrete area, and you can just see tables and tables of food packagers as far as you can see. It's kind of an exciting event. It's very communal, very, almost festive. Everybody's just there having a good time and packaging meals that are going to go to local food banks. They're distributed by Eastern Illinois Food Bank, all in this region, East Central Illinois. So,
Could you say again, who donates the raw materials, the food?
That's purchased through
That's purchased.
funding that we raise donations for.
I
So,
see, I see.
We get, the United Way provides a little bit of funding, and then Rotary provides funding. They have the last 3 years. They've provided significant funding. And then we've had a number of companies, they're all at the bottom. COZAD is one, and, they're not on the bottom of that page, but COZAD is one I know that's been a great funder over time. ADM does an in-kind, so we do get the soy free, which is one of the ingredients that's pretty instrumental. And ADM has for 3 years now provided all the soy that we need, and they've been wonderful about that, so that's been great. But there's a number of companies that have provided funding so that we can get the ingredients.
And actually, this year we've been in a little bit closer contact with EIF. As an overflow project, we will be repackaging oatmeal. They have a very large quantity of oatmeal that they need to get out of their warehouse and to these agencies. And so not only will we be packaging 148,000 meals, but we will be packaging a couple of tons of oatmeal as well. So it'll be a very exciting
It's
day.
a lot of oatmeal.
Yeah.
a lot of food packaging going on.
Yes.
Yes.
So.
And one other thing that I would mention is that we're also encouraging agencies to provide volunteer opportunities throughout National Volunteer Week, and of course the rest of the year too, but throughout that week, and this is just the kickoff project. And then on April 18th, there's a number of ways to get involved through Austin's Day, and there's a Science Olympiad on campus that day that needs a lot of volunteers. So there are volunteer opportunities galore throughout April. This is just one where we take a lot of people at once, and sometimes that's harder to do. So. We were actually going to do you want to do a demonstration?
Sure, yeah.
We were going to package a meal for you today.
Oh,
Very exciting.
I wondered what that device was.
Yes.
Yes.
The package.
Do you want to pour or do you want to hold?
I probably have a better reach. Would you mind holding?
No.
There. So,
So actually, on the day of service, people have funnels and stuff. So
Oh,
we're
yes.
gonna improvise a little bit.
So we will be packaging a hearty rice soy casserole that has 4 ingredients that you can see here. We've got some pictures up there too of kind of what it looked like last year, and pretty good representation of this year as well. We have a vitamin blend that is chicken flavored, and so provides the nutrients that people need. Go ahead and add that.
Which I recall is it vegetarian still, even though it's chicken
is,
flavored?
yes, it is still
Vegetarian
vegetarian.
for people, so that we don't have.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can do with science these days.
All natural.
And then we include dehydrated vegetable blend. It's got carrots and zucchini and celery and a whole bunch of different things in it. Adds some nice flavor and crunch.
And nutrients,
And nutrients.
which is very important.
So
This is a nutrient-rich meal as well.
it is, absolutely. And so we add those two first, and then we go ahead and add soy and add rice last, because at the end we want to make sure that the meals are in a certain weight range so that they're kind of all standard and we don't have to worry about things. But we really can't take out vitamins or veggies. They're just too tiny and there's not enough of them to really be able to scoop them out. So what we do is we add those two first, and then we go ahead and add some soy, textured vegetable protein. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'll do this. We go ahead and add just some white rice to top it off. And then we would go ahead and weigh the meals. We're looking for a weight range between 384 to 394 grams. And then, exactly as Sarah's doing, the volunteers would go ahead and hold the bag nice and tight at the corners to try and squeeze all the air out that they can. And then we have these heat sealers here that are impulse heat sealers, so they're not active unless you completely depress the lever arm, and a little red light that'll go on to let you know that it's working. So we go ahead and lay that in there. We want to create a nice flat seal all the way around. So we just depress that. little click to let you know the sealing is done. Let it sit for a second just so the plastic can cool so it doesn't tear. And then you can just peel it right off. And we ask that volunteers do a little check to make sure that it's a nice seal all the way around. And you're good to go.
How many calories?
Well, this is actually 6 meals in here because you don't eat it like this. You actually cook it first. But this would be 6 meals, and so 220 it would be. I'm not good at math. 1,320 calories in the bag. But each serving is 220.
So 500.
Yep. And then it's got several vitamins from that vitamin mix, which is good, and 11 grams of protein per meal.
A recipe, I assume.
I'm sorry?
So you add water and then cook it?
Yep,
Yeah.
it's just boil and eat.
Have you ever eaten one of these meals before?
Yeah, that's what I was.
You know, I haven't tried this one. I think we tried the other one, but I haven't tried
The
this
pasta one, the
Instead
NSRL,
of
yeah.
pizza next week.
There we go.
It could
Actually,
be.
though, I think, you know, you
Actually,
can add
I'm
things to it, of
serious,
course.
that might be a nice thing to actually have. Can we, like, purchase these, or are they available to?
You know, we
Aside
actually
from the
talked
food
about
bank?
that. We actually talked about that. They haven't been, but we were thinking about, like, if people want to make a donation and get one of the meals to try, we were thinking about doing that.
I'd be down.
I mean, I think probably if you just make it according to the directions, it's probably a little bit bland.
George wants to buy that one right there.
It's probably slightly bland,
Next
but,
week.
but they also put a little thing in the box that has things you can add to it to make it taste, you know, like different spices and things to certainly spice it up. It's relatively bland as is, I think. I mean, it has a little flavor from the vegetables and the chicken powder. That's not actually chicken, but.
And then, so when you go to the food bank, you just pull this off the shelf?
So at the
Have
Eastern
a lot.
Illinois Food Bank, they serve more as a warehouse for some smaller agencies throughout the 14 counties that they serve in Eastern Illinois. And so they receive these meals in bulk among a bunch of a variety of different food items. And so what they do is they work with the agencies to determine how much that agency needs. And then once the food items are shipped to the agency, then that agency would go ahead and put it out at their line, and people would be able to go through and pick what they need and get pre-packed bags.
How many food banks in this area?
Oh, the food bank works with about 50 distributors. Many of them are smaller, but there's a number of different outlets for food. And it can be anywhere from churches to like Salt and Light and other organizations.
And that's kind of the dividing line where the food bank, Eastern Illinois Food Bank, they are more of the warehouse, whereas food pantries and soup kitchens are the smaller local agencies that actually distribute the food directly to clients.
The nice thing is that the food bank has talked about how they get a lot of donations of different types of things, obviously. However, and certainly some things are very healthy, but they do get a lot of like unhealthy things that they don't have, they don't have a lot of choice in what people give them, obviously. And so, of course, they make available whatever they can to people that need food. But they much prefer to be able to give away things like this that are much more nutritious than things like Cheetos or, I mean, they get all kinds of things, but they really prefer to be able to give out things that have more nutritional value because often that target population that they're working with is nutrition deficient. Even if they're not calorie deficient, they're often nutrition deficient. So, but yeah, so it's been pretty exciting, I think, for all of us, and we've progressed a lot. And this year, we think it's going to be a great day of service.
Yeah, we have a lot of different events planned. So, like Michael was saying, it's very festive, and we've got a couple of different little happenings going on besides just the packaging and repackaging building. So, it'll be very exciting.
But I think the really cool thing is seeing people come and actually volunteer and having so much fun and really enjoying it. And I think that hopefully we get some people who go to do that and really enjoy it and then go volunteer more often because they found it to be something they like to do.
And it's really interesting, too, to take a look at the range, the broad spectrum of volunteers.
Yeah.
We get children as young as 3 as 4, all the way down to the elderly, and we've got families, we've got students, we've got faculty, community members. It runs the whole gamut. And it's really great. I mean, you can see some of that even here. It's really great to be able to see all of these different people from many different walks of life coming together for one common purpose. And so it's really, really cool to be able to see that all at once at the day of service. It's really a powerful feeling.
And it's taking place actually on Mom's Weekend.
Yeah.
So it's actually, a lot of times we have mothers and their kids coming
We don't do
to
it
the
necessarily
event.
intentionally, but it kind of worked out that way the last 2 years. And last year there
Kinda
were a
worked
lot
out.
of mothers that came with kids. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Some younger kids and some college students. So
Mhm.
What's the date again, May?
April 11th.
April.
It's a week from tomorrow.
Coming up
Oh yes,
quickly.
and we are ready to go.
Coming right
Yeah, we are set.
So just had our final 8 a.m. meeting, planning meeting this morning.
We're in the home stretch.
So, yep. Getting close.
I love that picture. That was when we actually found out that we got past the goal.
Yes.
That was our very high tech.
That was all of the calculations.
Yeah, high-tech calculations.
Some volunteers sit there all day just counting.
Well,
Lots
no,
of
actually, we just count every once in a
There it
while. I
is.
mean, to kind of estimate as we go. That's one thing that Max and Greg are really, really good at, thank goodness, because they usually have a pretty good idea of where we are, even though we don't count them as we go. But at one point, you know, we have to count them to make sure we actually get to where we are. So then we kind of test the estimates, but they're usually pretty close. So
So what's that, 146,
one,
146,000?
147.
147,
That's
yeah.
last year.
Oh,
The
right.
hiding.
So last year was, yeah.
Last year's goal was 147, and this year's goal is 148. So
Yep. So, which is 1,000 for every year of public engagement.
yeah.
1,000 for every year the university has been around.
We'll have to do something special in 2 years because
Yes.
it's our sesquicentennial.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, so we invite anybody who's interested in coming out for an hour and a half next week to come join in. It's a lot of fun.
You can also use
So-
people on Friday afternoon.
Oh yeah, there's a setup day or a setup period of time with setting up tables and chairs and stuff.
Unfortunately, all of that stuff doesn't magically pop up. It'd be
Yeah.
very nice. if
There are a
fairies
lot of
came out.
students and other groups involved in helping out.
Yes.
Alpha Phi Omega helps out with a lot of stuff, and
SA.
SA, what's the acronym?
Student alumni ambassadors.
Yeah, SA. So helps out a lot too. So there are a lot of people involved and behind the scenes in making this happen.
And how did you get all of these volunteers?
Well, you know, that's actually a good question. But I think it's because we have so many people working on this. Some people know from the previous 2 years, because I think we had a lot of repeat people last year and a lot of people that will come again. But we also, the Chancellor mentions it in some of her communications that go out. It's been on a number of different listservs. We do it on the PE listserv, and then, you know, there's listservs around campus that have taken it up as well. And there's typically some coverage. I know that Stevie J's has offered to do some good coverage of it with spots and things. So they've got some radio ads that you may have heard over the last couple of weeks. We had a couple of students do those, and so those have been playing for a while. And I think a lot of it is, as Max said, word of mouth. I really think that's been a lot. The other thing is we also allow for group registration in addition to individual registration. And so groups across campus have come together to, and that may be like 50 people or 40 people. We have large groups, we have small groups. So I think that's where some of it is.
Like a fraternity or
Mhm.
a RSO?
Yep,
Mhm.
number of different groups.
Or businesses.
We're gonna do-
Yeah.
I mean, Busey always has a table of people there because
Yeah.
Busey's
whole
pretty.
day.
Busey really gets time out there.
No, that's their own shirt.
No,
They wear
Just
Busey
to
shirts
identify
because they
themselves.
did a good table. They always do a good job.
Yeah.
So.
Is there such thing as too many volunteers on this day?
Yes, but I don't think I'm hoping we won't get there. Basically, we decided once we hit like 700 in one shift, we might have to do something, but we'll get a lot of melt. I mean, you know, if you have, say, 500 people registered for a shift, you may have, you know, I don't know,
300.
300
I mean,
or 350 show up
Right.
because a lot of
Yeah.
people just either they're sick or they just something else comes up or whatever, which we don't encourage, but you know.
A lot of
So,
people
yeah.
register on a whim, like
Yeah.
they see it and they're like, "Oh, this sounds great," and then a month later they have no recollection of having done that.
Right.
5 cancellation emails this morning.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah,
Yeah.
people are. We appreciate when people let us know that they
Yeah,
aren't
it
going to
is
make
helpful.
it. You know,
The
that
other
is
thing
helpful to know.
We've got the second oatmeal project, which is really, really big, so I'm not concerned that we won't, we'll have plenty of things for people to do, I think. I don't think it'll be a problem. Now, if we get to like 700 on a shift, we might have to start closing off a shift and then encourage people to sign up for a different time, but
Mhm.
I think that, well, I'd love to get to like, you know, we already have a huge number,
We
I'm
do.
excited.
Yeah. So it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
Much
too many
rather
people
than the
that
other way.
we have to find other things for them to work on.
Do you know how much food this represents for the food bank? I mean, is it like a third or a tenth?
Oh no, it's not right. I mean, they get tons and tons and tons of food. This is a very minuscule amount, but again, they don't always get the healthy things, so they're excited to have this. And I think another thing they really appreciate about it is that there is an awareness factor there. So then people learn that what the food bank does, the fact that they need food, they need donations, things like that. So I think the awareness helps.
Is there information available at the day itself about those sorts
Well,
of
the
things?
food bank is actually going to presently be there this year. They haven't been in the past, but they're going to actually be there, so they'll probably have materials about that.
That'd be
Yeah.
'Cause I mean,
education.
part of the goal of this is to package meals to go and to help people out. I mean, to give people meals, but part of it is also an awareness
Yeah.
raising thing.
And
where-
the past 2 years, the student groups that have been involved have done like awareness campaigns about hunger as well, so that's something they've been doing the last couple of years too. Those are probably more concentrated on campus than outside, but most of the time, whenever any like radio spots or TV shows that I've been on about the Day of Service, we always talk about the fact that part of this is to raise awareness about hunger, and there is a lot of hunger in our local community, so yeah.
Does this packaging of food only happen at certain events, or is this you can go somewhere and package to your heart's content every weekend?
Well, as a student organization, we would love for that to be the case, and we are trying to get to a point where we have monthly meetings for students, monthly events, I should say, for students to come package with us. Right now, Illini Fighting Hunger, on average, we hold about probably between 4 and 5 packaging events a month. And those range, we do rice and bean packaging, single ingredient packaging. Sometimes we package pasta or granola. And then we also do the meal packaging events. And so as it stands currently, we require that an event sponsor contacts us. So we deal very often with churches and school groups, university departments, other RSOs, Boy Scout troops, just a wide range of people looking to engage in some service. And then they will pay for the ingredients that are packaged into the meals, or the rice or the beans, whatever we're packaging at the time. And then Illini Fighting Hunger provides all of the consumable equipment, all of the reusable equipment, and then the leadership and connections to make the event happen. So we'll be able to connect them with the ingredients that need to be bought, and then transport that to whatever facility they would like to hold the event. And then we go ahead and facilitate it and make sure that whatever we've packaged gets connected to a food agency in the area, wherever the sponsor would like it to go to. So currently we don't have regular events that are open to the public, but we are working on a system that hopefully by next semester should allow us to do that a little bit more frequently. So.
And then if you're interested, there are packaging events and projects on regular basis for like Wesley and other food banks around town. So there are opportunities to do that. The food bank, Eastern Illinois Food Bank, also does have packaging events. I don't know if they're exactly like the same time every month, but they'll have them probably about once a month.
Mm-hmm.
So there's opportunities.
This is probably a good opportunity to give a shout out to Wesley too. I mean, Wesley Food Pantry.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is
They have done a lot for IFH.
Absolutely. We
Yeah.
are actually based at the Wesley Foundation at the corner of Goodwin and Green, just down the street. And from our inception, they've been absolutely fantastic. We store all of our equipment and a good portion of our food there as well. And so it's a wonderful headquarters right on campus that's easily accessible to students, and also accessible for us to get to campus buildings and connect with other departments in the university. And we've actually been able to foster a partnership also with University Housing Dining Services. And so they work with us at their giant warehouse where they store all of their food. They allow us to bring in some pallets of food when we're planning for large events like the Day of Service, when we're dealing with 7 pallets of rice and things like that, to store that in their warehouse, and then they deliver it to Memorial Stadium, say. So it's been really fabulous, the number of partnerships we've been able to kind of create and sustain over the years, and looking forward to expanding a little bit.
Thank you for being attentive and asking
Yeah.
questions.